Brothers, I brought some horror movies again. Today is a Spanish horror movie, Coffee Table. An ordinary coffee table can cause countless deaths of a family. Although there are no ghosts in the whole movie, the psychological repression always makes people unable to let go for a long time. The story starts a few hours ago. Da Zhuang brought his wife to the mall to buy some furniture for the new house. Da Zhuang fell in love with a coffee table worth 10,000 yuan at a glance. But the price made it difficult for him. The buyer was strong and rushed to sell it. He used the 3-inch snake to blow the coffee table into a work of art. But his wife said she would never buy such an ugly table at home. Da Zhuang was not happy to hear this and accused his wife of being too overbearing. After so many years of marriage, his wife has always said one thing but not the other at home. Obviously, Da Zhuang doesn't like children, but he was forced to hand over the food. The buyer took the opportunity to promote, saying, "Don't look at the coffee table. The glass on it is made in China. Even if the bullet can't penetrate, it's absolutely strong." Da Zhuang could no longer contain his excitement after hearing it. When he decided to buy it, when the coffee table was delivered, Da Zhuang finally moved the box up, but he ran into his neighbor. The girl is only 13 years old this year. Just because Da Zhuang helped her finish her homework, the girl fell in love with Da Zhuang and even wanted to elope with Da Zhuang. But at what age Da Zhuang was enough to be pulled out and shot 3 times? Although he has said many times that it's impossible to be with the girl seems to not understand. When he found the opportunity, he confessed to Da Zhuang. Da Zhuang, who could not bear it, closed the door and began to focus on studying his coffee table. At this time, an embarrassing thing happened. The glass on the coffee table was missing a screw, and it was impossible to install it tightly. Da Zhuang was in a bad mood. He took out the phone immediately and asked the receiver to send another screw. His wife looked at him helplessly. For a whole day, Da Zhuang was busy with that ugly table, and he didn't even have time to take care of his son. His wife couldn't bear it and asked Da Zhuang if he still remembered what day it was. Da Zhuang obviously didn't remember. His wife said helplessly that Da Zhuang's brother would take his sister-in-law to visit him later. He needs to go out and buy some food. When he heard that his own brother was coming, Da Zhuang took a deep breath. If possible, he hoped that when his wife went out, she would take her son with her. When he heard that Da Zhuang completely ignored his family, his wife was so angry that she broke the door and left the house. Unexpectedly, the sound of closing the door was too loud and scared his son to cry. Da Zhuang, who has never been alone with his son, panicked. He hugged his son and walked back and forth in the living room. He begged his grandparents to kneel down. He just wanted his son to stop for a while. When he saw the red cloth, he wanted to let his son see his new coffee table. He believed that as a man, his son would definitely agree with his taste. At this moment, he helped the son to embarrass him in front of his new coffee table. But what he didn't expect was that the child was active and bounced away from Da Zhuang. In the next second, there sounded a crisp sound. The blood splattered all over the place, and Da Zhuang was completely blinded. The glass in the receiver's mouth was unbreakable, but it was torn apart by the son's lie. The moment the glass shards hit, the child's head was cut off directly. Although Da Zhuang was no longer concerned about his son, he felt that something in his heart was cut off. After intense pain, it was a long time of numbness and panic. He couldn't imagine what would happen when his wife heard the news. At this time, the wife is carefully selecting the ingredients for dinner. Unexpectedly, she will meet her old friend. It's been years since they last met. Fatty's daughter already knows how to make soy sauce. 2 middle-aged women meet. Naturally, the topic can't escape the child. Hearing that Xiao Mei also has her own baby, Fatty is very happy. He said he must come to visit when he has time. Just when they were wandering around, he was alone at home. Looking at the blood flowing non-stop, Momo pulled out a piece of glass from her hand. She couldn't feel any pain anymore, and her inner regret was almost swallowing her. This damn table took away the most precious person in her and her wife's life. Da Zhuang didn't know how to explain to his wife, but the more he was afraid, the more he would be called. His wife suddenly called. He didn't have time to wipe off the blood on his phone, trembling to answer the phone. It turned out to be Peng Jie, who wanted to say hello to Da Zhuang. Da Zhuang kept silent and didn't say a word until the other party hung up the phone and pulled him back to reality. The mistake had been made. He silently held the child on the sofa. He changed his son's diaper for the last time. His son's body was right in front of him. Da Zhuang was about to die. There was a familiar crying sound in the ear. Da Zhuang dragged the son's doll bear to the bedroom. He carefully put the body in the baby's bed, as if nothing had happened. Then Da Zhuang came to the kitchen in a hurry. He wanted to find something to clean up the bloodstains. But because they just moved in, there was nothing in the house. He had no choice but to go to the girl next door to borrow it. However, as soon as the girl saw him, she asked him, "When will you take me to elope?" Da Zhuang really has a big head. He didn't dare to show any abnormality, which made people suspicious. Fortunately, at this time, the girl's mother appeared and saw Da Zhuang full of blood. The girl's mother was stunned. "I'm painting a red room." The girl's mother immediately let out a sigh. She didn't even think about it and just borrowed her own stuff. Dazhuang was just about to go home with the stuff when the cashier came to his door. It turned out that she was here to give Dazhuang a screw. The cashier didn't notice anything unusual about Dazhuang. After handing the screw to the other party, she didn't forget to say, "Although the glass is made in China, be careful when installing it. If a screw is not tightened, it may cause the glass to break unevenly." This kind of post-mortem work almost made Dazhuang cry. Unexpectedly, it was not the coffee table that killed her son, but her own carelessness. Dazhuang quickly cleaned up the glass shards on the ground after returning to the house, and cleaned up the bloodstains. However, when he was cleaning the carpet, Dazhuang saw a scary scene. His son's head was under the sofa, and there was a warm smell. Dazhuang didn't have the courage to pick up his head. Suddenly, his wife sent a message saying that he would be home in half an hour. Dazhuang didn't have time to think too much and went to the bathroom to take a shower. The feeling of hot water dripping on his body made him more and more anxious. Now he can't think of any way to make up for it. The blood on the carpet, the wound on his hand that can't be healed, the cold corpse of his son in the bedroom, all kinds of things are stuck in his heart so he can't breathe. Before his wife came in, Dazhuang came to the balcony and silently fell forward. At this time, his wife rang the doorbell and pulled him back from the edge of death. With the courage to open the door, Dazhuang decided to keep it from his wife first. "And now you can't enter the room, okay? You'll be sleeping deeply." "Okay." The wife was very pleased. She just went to the supermarket and her husband became a gentle man who took care of the family. At this time, Dazhuang talked about the broken glass. Xiao Mei immediately laughed and said that this was the end of Dazhuang's disobedience to his wife. He couldn't wait to go to the living room to see. But the snow on the carpet made his wife panic. Dazhuang said he cut his hand, but the wound was not serious. How could he bleed so much? Dazhuang remembered that his son's head was still under the sofa and the cold sweat kept coming out of his forehead. He saw that his husband's face was not right and his wife could not continue to ask questions. After his wife laughed enough, he finally remembered that he had not seen his son for an hour, so he had to go to the room to take a look. The door of the room was in his hand and there was still blood on it. The moment his wife walked in, Dazhuang chased up and said, "You worked hard today, let me take care of my son." In order to prove that he is a reliable father, Dazhuang even took the monitor of the room before he left. When he took the monitor to the kitchen, his wife suddenly heard a drop of water in the monitor. Dazhuang's face was white again. What did he think of at that moment? Fortunately, Dazhuang came to the room before his wife did. As expected, it was the blood of his son's body that fell on the carpet. After dealing with the dripping blood, Dazhuang sat in front of the table and drank cup after another. He wanted to numb his nerves, so he even came to the door of his brother's house. He didn't even have time to welcome his brother and his girlfriend. As soon as he entered the door, he noticed the chaos in the house. The little girl looked at the blood on the sofa and walked over to clean it up. This made the guilty Dazhuang more and more disobedient. She sat on the sofa with her butt and tried to block the family's sight. Then the brother took out a gift for his nephew, a set of beautiful hats and clothes. This made the wife in a good mood. "I can't wait to put the hat on my son's cute little head now." The more people talk, the closer they get. The guilty Dazhuang is angry. At this point, no one dares to mention going to see the baby. They can only go to see the baby's new room. Every time they pick up a toy, Dazhuang is guilty. He wiped the cold sweat on his face and urged everyone to eat first. But when it came to the table, Dazhuang couldn't eat a bite. Looking at everyone, he could only be silent. Under the urge of his wife, Dazhuang was just about to eat a bite. At the moment when Jiannan raised his head, the son's eyes seemed to have seen through the crevice of the sofa. At this point, everyone noticed something was wrong with Dazhuang. His brother thought that his brother still couldn't accept the fact that he was a father, and was kind enough to console him, saying that having a child will make the family complete. Dazhuang, of course, understood this feeling. Unfortunately, he only realized it after his son's death. Unexpectedly, his brother took out the surprise he had prepared. He was going to be a father too. The B-multiple elixir in front of him made the old handsome man's heart tighten quickly. The happy expression on his brother's face pierced his heart deeply. Thinking of his son's cold body, Dazhuang's face became more and more ugly. After saying this,
Dazhuang hid in the bathroom. His brother still feels sorry for his brother, thinking that he might be a child, sad for losing his beloved coffee table, so he ran over to comfort his brother. Unexpectedly, he accidentally heard Dazhuang's confession. His brother's three senses were about to collapse. He rushed in to ask Dazhuang what happened. Seeing himself exposed, Dazhuang let out a sigh of relief because he finally didn't have to bear the sorrow of losing his son alone. He took his brother to the room with his son's body, and his brother saw his nephew's body covered in blood and almost collapsed. "Where is he?" "Under the chair." Dazhuang cried like a child and wanted his brother to come up with an idea. His brother didn't expect his brother to make such a big mistake. He couldn't hide it and had to confess to his wife. At the same time, he also knew that no mother could accept to see her son in such a miserable state. So they had to go out first and find a suitable time to tell the truth to his wife and tried to make her suffer the least. After discussing, the two brothers walked out of the room. At this time, another uninvited guest came to the house. The girl couldn't wait any longer. She came to the door and said to her husband, "I fell in love with your husband. Now it's your turn to quit." This kind of small misunderstanding can be explained in a few words. But now he is full of the death of his son. He can't say a word, and his behavior is guilty to his wife. At this time, the girl's dog suddenly barked at the floor. The strong smell of blood stimulated him. At the moment the dog was about to take his head out, his brother took a step forward, but it was too late. The girl said, "That's a head." Everyone was shocked. The brother used the tone of crying to ask his wife to take his wife away, but he forgot that his wife was jealous. She vomited when she saw blood. His wife almost guessed the truth. She kept pushing him to see what was in his brother's hand. His mother cried desperately and thought about the whole house. Now no one can comfort her. At this moment, she chose to be so helpless. The woman held her son's head and walked to the balcony. With a gust of wind, the woman disappeared. Shortly after, the police arrived at the scene. Dazhuang and his wife jumped off the building and committed suicide. What's more shocking is that 3 witnesses, one was sent to the hospital for resuscitation, the other was scared out of his mind. The only one was a strong brother, and he could barely speak. The film itself is not scary, and even has some ironic meanings. But the later scenes are like spitting out alcohol. The person who pressed the button couldn't breathe, and the film ended.